Okay. In this part of the session, we would be carrying out preparation of stores ledger account according to FIFO and LIFO. And the question I have displayed on the screen, we've been asked to prepare the stores ledger account for material X of company PQRS. And here what they have done is they have given us the details of the transactions that are carried out, and it is displayed on the screen. One thing that I'd like to point out over here is in this particular question, we have a scenario where there is a small portion of your goods that is getting damaged. So if you look at the transaction on 4th of April, we have a scenario where 1 ton of good has been damaged. And in the due course, we would also be discussing how this can be treated into your stores ledger account. So let us solve this question together. Remember, at first, we would be working out according to FIFO, and I would be changing the screen view. And let us work this question out now. So here in this question, we've been given that these transactions are for 2020 April, and on 1st of April, they have given us the balance. They have given us the opening balance. So on June 1st, they have given us the opening balance. The opening balance is 50 tons, which was bought at 10 rupees. When you work this out together, you realize that the total price is 500. So the total amount works out to be 500. Now remember, the rationale that we are following is FIFO, first in, first out. Okay, first in, first out. Next one, 2nd of April. The 2nd of April, there is a issue. Okay, 2nd of April, we are carrying out a issue. So April 2nd, we are issuing, and then we are issuing 30 tons. So quantity is 30, and the rate at which we would be issuing it is at 10. So this works out to be 300. Now it is mandatory for you to record your balance. So 20 is the quantity that is remaining. It was bought at 10. Work out the math, it is 200. Next, April 3rd. April 3rd. April 3rd, the question tells you received balance 60 tons at the rate 10.2. So what basically here they have just given us an additional terminology to confuse us. But what this would happen, what this would imply is that on 3rd of April, you have got 60 tons of some material, and this was received, or this was purchased at 10.2. And when you work out the calculation, let me just quickly calculate this. 60 into 10.2, it works out to be 612. 612. Now that you had a transaction taking place, we will have to record the balance. So you have first batch of 20 units that was bought at 10. Then you have another 60 that was bought at 10.2. Record this together, you realize that this is your balance. Okay, so we are done with that. Okay, we are done with that. Now, 4th of April, here is something that is very interesting. On 4th of April, there are two things that are happening. On 4th of April, you have to issue 25 tons. Okay? You have to issue 25 tons. So what is expected is 25. Also, there is a damage of material that has taken place. Okay? There is a damage of material that has taken place. Now, let's go about fulfilling this. Okay? Let's go about fulfilling this. So remember, we are following FIFO. So out of 25 that was demanded for, 20 you should be fulfilling from here. So 20 that was bought at 10 rupees. Okay. Now, we have not fulfilled the complete issue. We have to issue another 5 more. Now, this 5, where would you issue it from? You would issue it from your this batch that was bought at 10.2. That was bought at 10.2. Now, we have one more scenario. We have a scenario where there is loss or there is damage. Okay. So 1 ton as you have lost 1 ton. But this 1 ton that you have lost, how would you account it for? Remember, since we are following FIFO, you would be recording this loss at 10.2 itself. So I'm just going to highlight here, this was a loss, because just for you to understand, just for you to differentiate where that came from, just going to record it over there. Now let's work out the total. This is 10. This works out to be 200. This works out to be 11, and so this works out to be 51 and 10.2. Now let's record the balance. So out of 65 you have fulfilled here, 1 was damaged, so you're left with 54. Okay? You're left with 54. So 54, you should be recording at 10.2. When you work out the math, this works out to be 550.80. Okay, 550.80. So we are done with this. Now let's move on to the next one, April 5th. April 5th, you have received, which means there is a purchase. Okay, you have received 10 tons. This was bought at 9.15. So total is 91.50. Okay, let's record the balance. 54, 10.2, 550.8, then 10, 9.15, 91.50. So we are done with the transaction for April 5th. Now let's look at the transaction for April 6th. April 6th, you are issuing 40. You will have to fulfill 40. Now this is straightforward because it is, since we are following FIFO, the entire request for 40 you will be able to fulfill from this batch. So this you will be issuing at 10.2, and 10.2 into 40, it works out to be 408. Let's record the balance. So out of 54, you have issued 40. You are left with 14, and this 14 you have bought at 10.2. When you work this out, this balance works out to be 142.8. Then you have another 10 that you had bought at 9 rupees and 15 paise. Work this out, is 91.5. April 7th, okay, April 7th, you have your next transaction. April 7th, you have received 22 tons. So you're receiving, and this was received at 10.3. When you work out the calculation, the total amount, this works out to be 226.6. Now let's record the balance. Now you have 3 batches of item lying in your go down. 14 that was bought at 10.2, 10 that you bought at 9.15, and 22 that was bought at 10.3. So and we've got one last transaction to process, and that transaction is on April 8th, issued 38 tons. So April 8th, you have to issue 38 tons. Now this gets quite interesting because let's see how we will go about fulfilling these 38 tons. So 38 tons that you have to fulfill, remember we are following FIFO. Okay? So out of 38, we will fulfill 14 at 10.2. Okay? Now out of 38, you have fulfilled 14, which means you have to fulfill another 24 more. You have to fulfill another 24 more. So the remaining 10 you will fulfill at 9.5. So now out of 38 you have fulfilled a total of 24. Okay, now you have to fulfill another 14 more. Okay, you have to fulfill another 14 more. So the remaining 14 you will fulfill at 10.3. Okay, you will fulfill at 10.3. So let's work out the cost. 142.8. This works out to be 91.5, and the last 14 you're fulfilling at 10.3. So 10.3 into 14, it works out to be 144. This works out to be okay, so 10.3 into 14, and this works out to be 144.2. Now let's record the balance. Okay, let's record the balance. So we have fulfilled so much, and now out of this 22, we have taken 14, so we are left with 8. Okay, we are left with 8, and this 8 goes at 10.3. So this 8 goes at 10.3, and that works out to be 82.4. So we have successfully prepared the store's ledger account for this particular question according to FIFO.